make the whole thing bigger. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So hopefully the microphone's working and everything. I will call this Public Site and Building Commission meeting to order at 7:01. Please join me in the pledge. Get started. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. David Olson is in Maine. He said he was going to try to sign in, and I did send him the forwarded the link because he asked for the link. So if he comes in at some point, we'll get him in here. Otherwise, he said his internet at Maine had, had been taken out last year with the storm, but it got back and it was weak, and then now it's even better. So that's what's going on with him. Hopefully he'll be back. So public input. Correspondence, nothing. Election of officers. I think we should wait until, so Roger and Jeff are both away, and I think we should wait till they're here. And what's that? We elected you guys. Yeah, we shouldn't do that. So we'll wait on that, but we'll keep it on the agenda so we can continue to look at it. Approval of meeting minutes. Let's start with the regular meeting minutes. So I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes from May 14, 2025.
I second.
David Horvath seconds. Anybody have anything that they saw that needs to be updated, checked, whatever? All good? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. And then I will make a motion that we approve the special meeting minutes from May 28, 2025.
Second.
David, send us seconds. Anybody have? I'll just say that, they're basic because, Kathy really couldn't write down everything everybody said and try to report it. So I think the summary came out good. So all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And nobody has to abstain because everybody was there. That's a good thing. So we're done with that. I'm just going to put in a little, I thought everything went really well with doing our walkabout, and gotten some questions asked about when are you coming to look at different things like the firehouse,
Yes.
South Street. So, I talked a little bit to McAllister about that, trying to get that at some point, but we kind of have to focus on what we have in front of us right now. So we'll get into, and I had a whole long list, and unfortunately Mary Churchill sent that whole list out to a whole bunch of people, and because there was no way we could get to all of what was on my list. But I just wanted to get things out there that there's a lot to look at. And some of it obviously is how much can we as a commission do as a bunch of volunteers, and then how much money do we have to spend at any one given time. So that has to be taken into consideration too. And I believe it's what both Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen are kind of looking at long-term. Like, are we looking at this next year, or are we looking at it in 3 years? Probably 3 years because of finances. So, okay, so let's get into our old business. High school HVAC upgrade. We had a good look at a few things that were going on there, and they were doing abatement when we were there too. Hopefully Rick has a good update for us.
I do have an update. Do you want to do that now, or are you doing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So install is moving along well. All the VRFs are installed, and the abatement was completed. However, they did run into an issue running some ductwork between risers. So between the first and second floor and the second and third floor, there's ductwork that goes through the risers, and they needed to do it. They need to do additional abatement because they specs called to attach to structural steel. However, the structural steel is behind the CMU walls. So to get to that, they need to go through the CMU walls, which is where the abatement needs to happen. Okay, so what they've done is got a pricing from. I had a conversation with Kohler Ronan and Save More initially last week, right after we found out what was happening, and try to get a breath of what was going on. So they did work up a pricing for us, which is $12,902.90 for the abatement portion, and it's an urgent matter because the abatement contractor is out after this week. So, action needed to happen. So we discussed it last week. We discussed it at our OAC meeting yesterday. This is something that can be done under the $15,000 allowance within their contract. So this abatement portion would not have any impact to the budget. So they needed to get in there actually tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. Well, they still had the contractor available, and it would take 3 days to do it. So they need to get in there tonight to do that. So we instructed them to go ahead and do that.
So can I ask a quick question, Rick?
Sure.
How wide is this chase?
I don't know offhand on how wide that chase is, to be honest with you.
So they're going through the chase, correct? They're going from one side to the other?
They're going up top to bottom.
Top to bottom, okay. Sorry.
It's going.
All right.
Yeah.
They're
The
going
other,
up the risers.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So
So
now with that, since it's within the allowance amount, you don't need any approval or anything from us because it's already in there.
correct. Right. There's $15,000 allowance. That's a general allowance. It basically put in labeled as an allowance, very similar to contingency. It's not tied to any one area, such as abatement or flooring or painting or what have you. It's
Yeah.
just a general allowance.
Okay.
All right.
However, in there.
What's that?
Is
Yeah.
there-
However, we do expect that there will be an additional change order for some masonry work that needs to be done. Once they get through that, the abatement's done, and to attach that and put some CMU block back in once the attachments have been made.
So the abatement is basically taking the block out and doing whatever they have to do abatement wise. But then there's a big hole that has to be plugged up. So
Correct.
there's masonry that has to be done, and that would be the change order.
Exactly. That would be, so now they can go ahead and attach to the structural steel or the CMU block because it's new block and there's no asbestos potential asbestos in there.
So they couldn't attach to what's existing because of the potential of abatement of asbestos in the block.
Correct. Yeah, they have to go through the blocks, in which case they'd be
Okay.
disturbing the
Punching through it,
potential.
Which
it's gonna cause dust.
I don't agree.
Well, but if it caused dust, couldn't they clean it up or is it just always going to be in there because it's in a through area that the dust is always, there's no sucking it up and
No.
vacuuming it or
Everybody wants
whatever.
to play around if there's a
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
Possibility of
Right.
it. Nobody wants to be responsible for
No,
it.
no.
Nobody's gonna touch it.
So this is the better way to go about dealing with that rather than drilling some holes and just cleaning up afterwards, which may just.
Well,
always-
either way, you still have abatement in there, and you can crack that. You can crack the block going through it. You still need to go up to the deck with the CMU wall.
Right. Okay, so
All
then there's additional masonry that's gonna have to be done. Or are we you've got to get something together as far as a price and all.
Yeah, so we're in the process of doing that. He couldn't get the mason out there in time for this meeting, so we will have it for the next meeting. see exactly what that's going to be, and we kind of take it from there.
Do we have any idea how much masonry work's gonna have to be removed to get to that steel? Is there any kind of a ballpark?
As far as dollars,
No, size wise, I'm sorry. Like you have to poke a hole through the masonry. Welcome, David, to the,
Hi,
get
David.
to the steel. I'm just curious as to what size, you know.
yeah, it's going to be 2 or 3 courses of CMU wall
Okay.
to get to where they need to go, but it's going to be in, I think it's 6 or 8 locations.
Okay.
But not a whole entire course, just a couple of blocks in the course, or,
Yeah, a few blocks in a course, correct. To be able to attach, the ductwork, if the ductwork's, 4 feet or what have you.
okay,
All right.
so they're gonna, and so they're still available to get the abatement done, because I know you were saying once they get off in the summer, they're gonna be gone and we'll never see them again, because they're gonna be busy, because they're gonna be.
Exactly. So basically they should be at least, if not abating tonight, they should be,
They are continuing with
take-
abatement tonight, right?
they are continuing. Okay. Thanks, Tyler. Because we did want to make sure they were going to go from 3rd floor down to the 1st floor. But, Tyler, were they starting on the 1st floor today? I did, contact,
Yes,
Jay
they
to
were,
make sure
they
that
were
he did.
doing the first floor tonight.
Okay. And because we have graduation happening on Friday, we wanted to make sure they weren't working on the 1st floor on Friday.
Okay,
All right.
so we'll look for anything you can put together so that we can review it for our next meeting.
Exactly. And I hope to have that next week. I hope to have that out next week. I'm hoping that he gets them in there this week to get us a hard number, and I'll be able to get that out for the next meeting for sure.
Now, is this gonna affect the updated schedule that you sent out?
Nope. The schedule there, we're still, and this is, having the abatement delayed for so long in the beginning, hurt us, but they, really, put their best foot forward, and they did complete the abatement in a timely manner, actually early, and which allows us, because we still had them estimated to be here till the 13th, which is Friday, and that was our allotted time basically. So that's why we needed to get them in there so quickly. This came up late last week, and we're just trying to get them in here today, tomorrow, and Friday to complete the abatement.
Okay,
So we're still on schedule as far as our last meeting, which was yesterday.
okay.
All right.
I think it might be good for the next meeting, if you are bringing a change order, to have an updated budget report. So I know it hasn't.
Oh, for sure.
That we've.
Yeah.
approved.
So we don't, and then I can bring the budget up, and we can kind of review that after the update. It hasn't changed based on this cost, because it was already included in the overall price.
Okay,
Okay.
Mhm.
On the good side, okay, there's we're looking for a possible cost savings. So I've asked to Save More to price out, and we've Jen and Tyler have been abreast of this. The DOAS units on the roof are initially going to be discharged from beneath, and now they're going to be discharged on the side for their airflow. And this allows us to bring the units down 6 to 9 inches, I believe. In which case, we may be able to do away with the pathway around it. We had stairs, rails, and a platform around it to service the units, but we may not need that any longer with these units. So we've asked Save More to get us a credit change order to see if it's worth our while to do that, and I hope to bring that at next meeting as well.
that'd be great.
All right.
Maybe
So-
it'll offset some change order stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but we are tracking very close to schedule. Based on, you had mentioned that before. So the one thing I see is we have the structural steel that was supposed to be delivered somewhere around the 16th of this month. I think Jason said it's going to be delivered later in the month, close to the end of the month, but still no worries in regard to missing the deadlines. The VRFs are installed. The condensate piping is complete. They've started to hang some ductwork. So what we're going to do is on Monday, Coloronans scheduled to go down to inspect just to make sure that they're hanging it properly and adhering it, as per contract. So they'll be far enough where we'll see most of how they're working and make sure that they're doing it in the proper direction before they get it all done. And we say, yep, you missed a couple of screws here, and you got to go back and redo it here. So it's just kind of a quality check, if you will.
Good. That'll be great. Now, are there any inspections that you have to schedule with the building inspector anytime soon, or is that all down the road ways?
No, I think that's down the road.
Okay.
Any questions?
Are you guys starting day shifts this next week?
This Monday we'll be starting day shifts. So they'll be working first shift.
6 to 2:30, I think you said last time, right?
I believe so. Yep.
Okay. Did you want to show us the budget report?
Oh, sure. Hold on.
Is that not in the drive? I can see it.
Huh?
I don't think it's in the drive.
No, I don't think a new one is.
No, I think it might be in the drive, but I've got it here. I can share my screen.
You have to make him post.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Do it again.
Yep.
Kathy had to make you a co-host.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
How's that? Okay.
That's the schedule. Yep, that's the schedule.
That's the schedule. So, oops, coming up in there. I'll try to enlarge it a little bit if we can. Oops. Yeah. So really abatement, which was pushed off, is now the scheduled abatement is now complete, where will have been completed with all the abatement at the end of this week with the new abatement. Layouts and penetrations, like I said, they've got all the penetrations completed. They've started to hang the VRF installation piping has been piping installation has been going on. The grills, I don't know how far they've gotten on the grills and diffusers. Next, haven't been out, but like I said, the structural steel was scheduled for the 16th, and I believe it's going to be more like the end of the month. But everything else is kind of falling in, even though they were delayed a bit, kind of falling in place. So once they get on first shift and they get more people in there, they should be making pretty good headway. The one thing that we did ask them to do, and I asked before, but they weren't very forthcoming with it, is the 2-week look aheads. And we did ask again yesterday's OIC meeting that they really need to do that, because even during the summer we have some folks in the school. We want to make sure that all the areas are clear that they can work in. So we're going to work with Tyler and Joey from Save More to make sure that happens.
Well, I would keep impressing upon them that they have to.
Right.
Might have to not move a payment right position if they don't. Okay. And then did you have the budget to put up there, or?
Yep.
That-
Yeah.
I
Bear
don't
with me.
think the budget report was on unless I just missed it.
That's what I see. It was on the April 9th.
Mhm.
Oh, there we go. All right. So really, nothing has, like I said, nothing has changed here. I didn't put in the expenses for this month, but we're still tracking with $102,959 left in the contingency.
You said 102?
Yeah, 102,959.
20. Okay.
All right.
Anybody have anything else? Questions, or we do have invoices. We have a few invoices.
Right.
So the invoices, luckily, are all the 4 different Ronan, Save More, SES, and STV. And they're here and we can deal with them. And again, as we move forward, it would be great to, if we're going to have this first meeting of the month be where we do school stuff first. It would be great to have all those together to do it at this point. Because next meeting, so in 2 weeks, we're going to have, the agenda will be a little organized a little differently as we did our walk around and were introduced to 2 new projects that we were assigned, rebuilding the animal shelter and redoing the highway garage. We'll have Eric and John join us next time and do their as much information as, hopefully they can get some out to us ahead of time. I think they were going to work with Jack about setting up another drive for us to check out. And that Eric had been in touch, and the plan was for them to come to that next meeting and be first on the agenda and get their stuff done. However, if you've got stuff, you got to bring it, especially if it's change orders that we need to deal with right away.
Mhm.
It just won't be first. Sorry. So,
No worries.
yep, given that, we will do some invoices, and I will, where's my, there it is. That's the Ronan. All the stuff went out ahead of time, so you had a chance to review it. I will make a motion to approve Ronan invoice number 22021.02.01-6 for services rendered through May 31st, 2025, the month of May, in the amount of $3,662.50.
Okay.
So we got a second. Any questions? Again, it's their total amount divided by however many months. Good to go? Yeah, okay. Good. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And then saying weird things to me. Save More. Whoop, whoop. Getting a little bit better at this. So Save More, I'll make a motion that we approve Save More application for payment number 5, which is invoice number 17623. I don't think there's any more numbers there. Dated May 20th, 2025, in the amount of $351,633.00.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Any questions? Everybody had a chance to take a look at it. Should be good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. We got another one. Now, we're back to Ronan. And that's SES. And I will make a motion that we approve SES invoice number 5160 in the amount for, well, it's dated the end of May, so May 31, 2025, in the amount of $1,068.
Second.
Second.
Got a second. Any questions or anything? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Done. And then back to STV, which I don't know if this is the right one. So I have 2 STV, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So I'll make a motion that we approve STV invoice number 90034402, dated May 16th, 2025, for the month of April, in the amount of $6,027.50.
Second.
Got seconds. Any questions about this?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Now, yesterday we got another, because that one came in and we would have done it at the walkabout meeting, but that was a special meeting and we didn't do that. So I had a STV invoice that came in for the month of May yesterday. So I didn't have time to send it out to everyone, but if people are okay, I'll put it up there and we'll be done with it. Let me. So I'll make a motion and we can discuss. I'll make a motion that we approve STV invoice number 900346662 dated June 10th, 2025 for the month of May in the amount of $3,979.50.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. So everybody okay with doing this? I mean, it's basically a whole lot of Rick and a whole lot of Rick, no Gerald and no Mark. Yep. Everybody okay with it? Yeah. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So Mark, my only question is again, or Rick, my only question is, you were going to talk to Mark about, as we're moving along with this, we're getting up there.
Yeah, so I actually did speak to Mark and he was going to join tonight, but I got a text about 10 minutes before the call that he couldn't make it. But he will be on the next meeting. But right now, it looks, our contract was through September, evidently initially. As it's running through October, there is a potential that there could be a change order, but we're trying to keep our hours down to minimize that, if any. But we don't want to give a change order now, naturally, just to see if we can kind of come in to where we estimated.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let Mark will be at our next meeting, so I can let him talk to that as well. What happened initially before I got here, to see if there's any questions. All right.
Because I guess initially I think the schedule was to September, but it's changed as schedules do.
Right.
So, okay, I can get rid of that. All those. So is there anything else on this that you need to let us know about? Any questions that we have? I don't know if Jen or Tyler have anything, probably not. Good to go?
I think I'm all set. I don't know if Tyler and Jen do.
Good. So as I said, our next meeting, you might be a little further down on the agenda. And I guess you could just sort of be hanging in the background until we're ready to jump into that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
Yeah,
we'll look-
I'm all set, Nancy.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll look for, if you're gonna send out, if you have a change order, and you have information about it, everything backing it up, it'll need to go to everybody. So if you're not sure who everybody's emails or whatever, let me know. We'll make sure you have that. So it
Okay.
goes to people that need to get it.
Yeah, what I'll do is any change order that I have, anything I send out, I'll send out the potential budget impact
Okay,
that we'll have as well. All right, so everybody, full transparency what's moving forward.
good, great. Yay, thanks,
Thank
Jen,
you.
thanks Tyler,
Yeah.
thanks Rick.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you all later.
Good night. Okay, so next on our agenda is the locker room renovation, which we all got a chance to look at. And we did our walkabout. It is interesting. And I like the concept that, was suggested as far as having the actual locker rooms. They're not going to really be locker rooms, the bathroom.
Right.
Sink, shower space be smaller so that there's more space to use as a teaching room, whatever way it will be used. Now, how we get there is the question. So we've talked about, I did bring up a few meetings ago, going through the whole process with Gordian and BMP, the whole state contract thing. They talked to an architectural company that would do start to finish all the construction documents, structural, MEP, everything. And their approximate cost was that $95,000, which is a lot. But it also included this building analysis, like analyzing the whole entire building, which
That could be pretty helpful.
it could be helpful. Do we really need it?
Well, so obviously the plans for the high school aren't that reliable. So
True. I mean, the
Yeah.
plan, so,
for future,
Chris Baldwin sent some kind of either Dropbox or some way, sent an electronic copy of plans that he has that are stored for the entire building electronically to Jay from BMP. And they must have looked through them quickly and determined that they would need a building analysis to come up with plans. That we never had a building analysis done when Architects Guild did the original plans, and there were more toilets and sinks going on with that one.
Right.
One thing we could do, I'm thinking that, I mentioned too, how the town had, engaged with Colliers, which is another company that does owners rep kinds of things, back in 2021, I believe. And I think it was partly to have someone on board just in case. It's kind of like an open-ended contract of, we'll work for you and give you a cost of what we think it's going to be for X project. And I think they used them for a couple of the ARPA money projects, right? Yes. And we did use them for the GP room lobby, which was ARPA funds also. So I'm wondering if a quick meeting with someone from Colliers could help advise us. So like, what's the next step? They might say, oh, we can do this and it'll cost you that much. I mean, we're supposed to advise the board of selectmen, yet we're not experts at everything like some people's companies are.
The building analysis, is that just for this project, or is it something that we can use in the future?
That's what I was
Is
gonna say, how
it
beneficial it could
angled
be.
like,
That's a good
all right,
point.
is this
Yeah.
just looking at how many bathrooms we need for this specific project, or is it something that's gonna say, this is the full layout, we looked at everything
right,
structurally,
6 years from now, if we're gonna do something else.
something, can we
already
have
all this
refer to this and
information.
say, because then that's not really a locker room budget item, that's more of a
Overall,
municipal center
Yeah.
overall.
So
Hey, we probably could use this,
But,
especially
yeah.
if, Chris is saying, the plans aren't that great, cause I believe that got mentioned at some point,
Well,
where
I
the
think
plans
what-
were like, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of
Yes.
different patched together.
So there must have been plans that were done mostly for this end of the building when this was made into the municipal center. This was a high school. Some of you went to high school here. So there were plans for that, yet are they readable? I mean, they're probably paper and they've been
Right.
scanned.
and how
into-
accurate are they?
Yeah.
And,
And then how much has changed since those plans were done that maybe weren't indicated on the plan? So that's something they have to take into consideration.
But the question I have is that included in the building analysis, or is it just a functionality, like, feasibility
Yeah,
study? Right?
right, that's what I'm
Right,
saying,
right.
what
We need
is,
to find out from
such
them.
a general term.
that's the
what is this
conversation
thing?
we need to have with
Yeah.
them.
Right, I don't think they're,
We're not gonna come in and do an as-built drawing.
Right,
for us.
right.
I mean, for
But at least-
95 grand, it's gotta be
right,
more
so they're
than
not gonna
just-
find buried rock,
They're probably not, but
But
and they're not gonna go
95,000
hand
gotta
over-
be more than just looking to see how many
Well, I don't know,
bathrooms you
we
need.
should
or how
get a
many to-
definition.
Yeah,
of that.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. Because 95,000 just to tell us how many toilets we need in a bathroom that we're setting up seems a
Right,
little,
what
seems
is-
a little excessive.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
Yeah.
simply what is a building
to
analysis?
what
So,
extent, to what
right.
extent, because my
So-
version of building analysis might be completely different.
Well, sure. And we all might be thinking different things when we say, oh, go ahead and do it. Because what we're gonna have to do, we can't say, go ahead and do it. We're gonna have to come up with what's it gonna cost?
Mhm.
And then go to the Board of Selectmen, who will then probably send us to the Board of Finance and say, can we spend this money?
And what's it gonna
Do we do the analysis first? And then, like you said, if it's a town thing, that maybe that's how they spend some town money. And then we have that information, then it becomes part of the project. Because I think we also have to think of the fact that what I would like to do is get, and I think it would make sense, get the plans, come up with some construction documents, complete, ready to go. And wherever that costs, because then we'd have to go ask for that money too.
Mhm.
And then grants become available, or, I mean, obviously you want to try to get the work done before too long because you don't want the plans to become outdated.
Right. They should
Without
probably run in
plans, there's no
parallel.
budget, yeah.
Right, right,
We
right.
should probably run them both in parallel if possible.
Well, if we can get the plans done and then some sort of either another company or whoever's
Mhm.
doing the plans comes up with a cost analysis so that they can say, here's your plans, this is how much it's gonna cost to get, I mean, the professional cost estimators out there are usually pretty good about coming up with that. So then we'd have to probably go to the Board of Selectmen and say, well, the plans are done, now it's gonna cost X to get the work done. How do you wanna do that?
Yeah.
We wait for a grant, something.
But we're also gonna have to come up with, okay, this is gonna be beneficial and how, right? Because Board of Finance, making those guys gonna be picking apart.
Right, what's the
Yeah.
benefit?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
gotta come
Everybody.
with,
Right,
At
we
one
can't-
point, Jay, was it Jay?
yes.
Was gonna get us a breakdown, right, of the separation.
And then I didn't hear anything back from him.
Okay.
And I will be in touch with him.
Because we should probably pose the same question to Colliers, give us a separation of the building analysis, what is it? And what does it cost versus the locker room?
Right, and then we can decide if it's gonna be beneficial or not.
Or we just take that number to this first selectman and say, here, this doesn't really have to do with our project.
But here's what you're gonna get for this.
Yeah,
Do you wanna do it? But at least let's go with all our eggs in baskets.
right.
Because just so I'm the way I'm looking at it, this is more of a want more than need at this point, correct? Like the animal shelter is a need. Like that's how I see it.
And it's probably gonna have
The
to
highway
happen
department
first.
is a need.
Gonna have to happen first.
Yeah, exactly. The,
But if
the,
we
the
have the
locker room is
plans-
more of a want, correct?
A want, but also to make that whole end of the building more
Usable.
functional.
Oh,
and
oh, no,
usable.
I see the functionality of it. I'm looking at it more
Sure.
like when we're looking
The
at
money-
budget
how's
and
the
we're,
money gonna
how's
be
money getting spent.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
To me, that this is more of a want than it is a need. The other two projects are obviously a little further along. They already have plans, and everything else, but
Yeah, the dynamic's interesting too, because if the other two projects never were given to us,
Yeah.
then our priority is the locker
yeah,
room.
Of course.
But they've been assigned to us
You're right.
just recently.
So now
A month
we
ago.
have to figure out
So now we
1, 2, 3, what's
reprioritize.
the
Yeah.
priority?
Yeah.
yeah.
Town garage,
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know, kennel,
yeah,
bathrooms, and the kennel bathrooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
And
can
so-
do this.
we'll see next week or two weeks, our next meeting, when Eric and Jonathan come and do he's called it a presentation. So I'm sure he's got a lot of information that he can put forward and hopefully, like I said, they have it ready for us to look at, maybe even review, give it to us, a week before and let us take a look, and then they can show us where they are, because I don't think they have complete set of plans yet. I think they've got some kind of like schematics, whatever they gave out. This is just,
That's the garage or the kennel?
this is
That's
the animal shelter. This is
Okay.
like schematics.
Yeah, they just came out.
The garage, they're
Yeah, I
still,
think
still looking at
Eric,
how to fix
Eric
it.
did that himself.
Yes.
No, actually.
Jonathan
Or
did.
Jonathan, sorry.
Yeah, he's the one that has more
Because
experience.
the
with
highway
this.
department, they're still looking for a way to even fix it or what.
How can it be fixed? Like I
Yeah.
think they're still looking at,
And operate.
and
Yeah,
if
somebody
they,
needs to look at
yes.
this structurally and say, this is what's actually needed.
right.
I mean, you saw, everyone pointed out, I didn't even notice that you said it. Those steel beams
Yeah,
are
yeah,
going.
Yeah. that's-
Like what needs to be done
Yeah.
exactly. And again, they were going to try to contact
I
the
doubt they have
company.
plans for that or anything by
Right.
our next meeting. I don't think.
No,
No,
that's,
no, no,
that's, that's a whole.
No, but I
Yeah,
guess-
I think they
previous-
want to let us know where they are so that then we take whatever the next steps
Correct.
are. If we have to put out an RFP and hire an architect or a structural engineer or something, then we have to make that plan and start to do that, because
Hopefully
means
get
going
somebody
and
to
asking for
contact
money.
the company.
Yeah.
Hopefully
But-
they get some contact in the manufacturer.
well,
So it's-
hopefully, because they were
Yeah.
going to look into that and see, what information can they get from that manufacturer to see how can they help? Do they have I mean, it's not the only building that was built by that company in the universe.
Right.
No, they're a big company, actually.
Yeah.
They're a very big company.
So is it our responsibility to go out and engage with Bergese or an architect, or is it the town,
So,
the PUD guys, or?
so we, as a commission, don't have any authority to go out and like sign contracts or say to somebody, go do this work. We don't have any legal authority.
Right.
So we would always be going to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and saying, we can, using all the town resources, purchasing, et cetera, if we had to put out an RFP for something specific, that's the step that we take. And we would get, or ask for quotes, depends on how much we think it's gonna cost. If it's over a certain amount, you gotta put RFPs out. If it's under a certain amount, you can ask for 3 quotes. We get somebody, we have to go to the Board of Selectmen and say it's gonna cost this much. They say, yeah, okay, go, or the Board of Finance, yeah, go ahead. And then they sign the documents. We don't ever sign. The only thing I signed, this is already, the budget's already been approved. So that's why I
Put in
signed
our
it.
recommendation on when the 3 bids, top bids come in.
Yes,
We put our recommendation on.
Right.
We're not just gonna go with the lowest because we don't feel that they're strong enough.
But does the highway department call Borghese or the architect, or do we?
they
just-
should be,
They
Right,
but
that's them.
That's
They
how
should bring that
we will
information.
find out
Right.
when we have
Okay.
this
Yeah,
meeting.
we
And
just
then they
decide
do-
on the numbers
Yeah.
and give our best recommendation.
They give us the
Okay.
information.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if like we leave this meeting and you go call Borghese.
No.
or you call.
No,
Okay,
We don't get involved.
I got you. Okay.
I don't know as I mean, good. but I think it should be them because they're the ones, I mean, we put that forward to them. Hopefully they're dealing with
As
it.
soon as you dip your
Okay.
toe into that pond, you get.
No, so we advise them on how to
Yeah.
approach the project.
Right, right.
Okay.
And usually it would include, like if there are decisions being made to spend money in this direction or that direction. So, and I owe the Board of Selectmen an update, so hopefully we'll do one of those soon. Let them know where we are and what we're gonna need from them, because there's a lot of things we can't move forward with until they say, go for it.
Okay.
We have the money to do it.
With the municipal center renovations, I will be in touch with BMP and Colliers to see if they have anything that they could. I mean, they may say, oh, we can check this out, it'll cost you this much, some smaller amount. And then they may come up with the same thing, well, oh, a building analysis is gonna cost this much. And I don't know if they've got, I know STV has, architectural people on staff to review plans and something that they did part of during the school project. So, when you have these larger owners rep companies, they've got all these different divisions with teams of people that can check things out for you, which comes in handy.
So I don't mean to beat this thing to death, but so you would get in touch with Colliers and BMP and Gordian, not Rachel.
Well, if we were gonna meet, I would have Rachel be a part of it. Yes, because we've already kind of engaged with them,
Okay.
so to speak. I would just let them know where we are and this is what's next. That's generally but I would also, getting further down the road, want Rachel to be more a part. And if there's somebody that she wants to have be part of the commission as ad hoc member for like Park and Rec Commission, or somebody that she feels needs to be a part of the decision-making part of it, because we vote, they can come to meetings, and if they're not part of the commission, they don't get to vote on things that we do. But, and I could have her do that too, but I think it would be good to come from us. Doesn't have to be me, it could be somebody else, but somebody with some little bit of construction background to be chatting with them first.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the dynamic of who reaches out to who
Right,
during a
right.
process like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. And there are times when department heads have gone and then come to us with, this is what I found out. Okay. So I think a lot of it needs to come through, I don't even know if I want to call them proper channels, but I mean, I don't even think that like Rachel would be able to go out and engage, like enter into a contract with, let's say, an architect. I don't think she's supposed to do that. I think the town would, for selectmen being the representative of the town, being the one that signs it. I think that's generally how things go. Or if it was another department, like I don't think that Eric's gonna go out and hire an architect for the shelter.
Right. I guess not necessarily
Town would have
hire,
to do it.
but
Yeah.
like seek information
yeah.
and request information.
She could do that, yet my experience with Rachel is she's always kind of deferred in a way to get us on board to help her understand what they're talking about.
Okay, so it could be project, it could be department specific
Yeah.
that we assist a little more.
And she also has said, it's, yes, my department uses that area a lot, but it's also the town's building. It's not park, just because Park and Rec's down that end of the building a lot. She wants, she has asked for input from Dan and others of how do they see the space being used? Because yeah, it gets used as part of the gym, but could it be another, if that meeting space is classroom for Park and Rec, could it also be a meeting space for some other department to use?
Right.
That's a possibility.
Okay.
Yep.
So I will check in with them and then I will make sure from Eric that he gets all his info together so he can bring it to us in 2 weeks so we can then, I mean, if the highway garage is, I'm just gonna fall down. But if it's looking a little sketchy, then I think we need to get something going soon. And knowing that everything takes time, we want to not wait on it.
Right.
All right, so like I said, that animal shelter and highway garage will be at the beginning of the agenda next time. And we'll get that taken care of and then Rick's bringing us change orders. Maybe the change in the DOAS units will offset the change orders. Right,
Yeah, if they don't, so I did talk briefly with Tyler about it.
Yeah.
By lowering them, it also make it safer. Look, I'm not going up the stairs, that's one.
okay,
Cost wise, just from my past, those galvanized stairs, treads and everything are expensive as all get out.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And they have
don't
to be-
do that.
sometimes they have to be manufactured, like sometimes you can buy pre-built ones from wherever.
If you're lucky, but
yeah.
90% of the time you
You can't, yeah.
custom.
Do you know what's dictating that they're able to do that? They're able to lower them? Is there-
Because they're gonna do side,
Yeah.
instead of direct down out of the ductwork, instead of spline return coming out of the bottom, they're gonna go out the sides.
Oh.
So it still has to be some kind of.
Which will be a little
roof
more-
penetration.
Right,
but
they're gonna
not-
have the roof penetrations and all that, a little bit more ductwork on the roof, a little more insulation. So that's the only
Okay.
downside of it, as long as the installation's done properly, like Rockwell.
Yeah.
We'll be fine, which is something, I'll get on as soon as they start installing them. But it's just easier for repairs and stuff like that. It's just safer.
Okay.
The only other thing we have to make sure is that they're still at least a foot off the roof because you don't want them too close to the snow and all that
Mhm.
stuff, but that should offset. If they don't have to do any of that stairs and stuff, that could be a
Yeah.
substantial savings.
That's a lot of metal.
Well, because also you don't have to do, they don't have to penetrate, but they don't have to put dunnage down and all this other stuff.
Right.
And that's also roof work that you're eliminating, because now you can just put walking pads as opposed to dunnage and all that stuff, and
Mhm.
you have to engineer it and all that, so there should be, hopefully, the engineers say, well, I thought the engineer, the walking pad, so it's only gonna save you 500 on 15,000, and then you argue that, you're like,
So the engineer will make the final decision and let them know.
I don't even know if the engineer will be designed, if they're gonna go with that unit, which it sounds like they are, then you don't need a structural engineer to make the stairs anymore. So that should go away. That
Yeah.
should disappear. There shouldn't be anything for dunnage, so that should disappear. And you're just talking walking mats now. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think what I'll ask Rick to do is to keep on Save More to get that
Mhm.
all that information, just so
Yep.
we have it. So they're not waiting until
Right,
3 months
The
from
last
now.
minute
Yeah,
saying-
we don't need that.
because I'd like to try and find out what the cost saving, because we'll be able to figure out the cost savings are, so. Right,
Because it would,
ballpark it.
what would probably end up happening is if we have to have a change order to take care of all the block that's
Mhm.
being evaded and then the masonry to reinstall it, there would probably also have to be a change order, the change in the units and whatever else is it, because it's kind of a change of scope. It's not,
Mhm.
it is and it isn't, because if we're taking out walkways and bridges and all kinds of stuff like that,
Well, that would be.
so that would be a
Correct,
credit,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Deduct
But
alternate.
we would want it to be kind of official, like here's your savings, here's your
Right,
credit.
yeah.
Here's what you have to pay more for.
Usually those units are designed from the get-go for down or out. So it's usually just rotating the fan internally, so it's not a up or down cost. It really shouldn't be, but depending on the manufacturers,
Right.
it shouldn't be a big deal.
So it doesn't mean if most of the units
There
have been
shouldn't be a lot of
purchased,
work
et
in the
cetera.
unit for them to have to do.
So it's not a new unit, it's
Nope.
just changing it So if they've got units purchased already, we don't have to like set them.
Right, they should, hopefully, I'm hoping this.
I haven't done a lot of it.
If we get
But all
the
the
cuts,
rooftop
if we get the
units
cuts
actually
on the
go
units, I can tell you right off in 2 seconds. Yeah. So,
In a contract like this, they're billing hours for management and meetings and stuff. That's typical?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not a lump sum,
For
like we're talking about their hours
with
building up,
STV,
STV. yeah.
so we have a contract amount with them based on the RFP that was sent out way back, and I think with the dates, so, like he said, they said theirs goes out to September. I think the contract is in the shared drive. If it's not, it's gotta get put in there. And that was when it was written back last summer, I think.
Mhm.
And they keep track of their hours internally just because that's what they do. And so when they bill us, it's kind of like their amount, which is 90 something, is not to exceed.
mhm.
And so they keep track of their hours to see how they're tracking along
That's what
with.
they quoted us to take care of a project this size. That's what they said it would cost them.
Yes. So now, something we have to take into consideration, I believe that the contract back and forth with the town attorney and Save More involved STV more than I think they thought they were gonna have to.
Okay.
Because that was Geraldine, I think.
Yeah.
And,
It's all,
Right, I guess my point is, like, you bid on this, you gave us a number.
yes,
I don't care if you have 300 hours or 30 hours,
yeah, no.
true,
It
but
comes
if,
down to time too, so if they say contract end date is September 30th, and we go to October 10th,
Right.
and there's an extra
yeah,
50 hours in there, then that's above and beyond.
because it's kind of written out in their contract, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, we're not gonna do this, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we can look back and see. And the interesting thing to me is, as people were replying to the RFP, there were some companies that had, I mean, it was twice this much.
Mhm.
But they said, but we're unsure of this, and this because of, the plans are not complete. The plans were attached to the RFP.
Yeah,
It's like, we don't want them.
Nope.
If they didn't look at the plans and they don't know that they're not complete, if they are complete. And another company put in some allowances on top of their budget amount for things that were already done. So but again, if there's things that they were asked to do in a way, it's kind of out of scope. Like going back and forth with this contract, and it created extra hours, we may have to look at that with that.
and this thing
Yeah.
unforeseen, like this thing with the riser, stuff like that, because they don't have, the plans are complete, well, they're complete, but they're wrong. Like on this one, the steel was supposed to be on the inside of the riser, not the outside.
Yeah.
Well, there's your scope difference, right? So now they have to break out the blocks. So that's where we are now.
Right.
Yeah,
If
the
the
only thing
steel
that,
was on the inside, we wouldn't be talking about it.
right, the only thing that bothered me about that a little bit,
Outside of Dave Olson's
Look at that,
window.
Maine.
Yay!
Where in Maine are you,
Sorry.
Dave?
He's on Final Haven, I think. The island, sorry.
no, that's okay. I thought when I asked like 3 meetings ago, if they, when doing their layouts, if we're gonna see any more change after.
Yeah,
the orders. I thought Rick was like, no, we've got it all laid out, it's no problem.
Yeah, well,
And then
they
they
shouldn't
find,
have said that.
and then they find things. They shouldn't, they
Right.
shouldn't, because then they
Because
find
you always find stuff in construction.
Right.
always. And,
always.
even in newer buildings, I've been in buildings that are only like 10 years old and the drawings are incomplete.
Yeah, no, I
They're
get
not-
it, I get it.
Unless you get accurate as-built,
Yeah.
99% of the time, the as-built are pretty much dead on, but there's
Well,
always.
and that's what, I can remember with the building department, that I don't even remember what project, maybe the library, whatever, where are the as-built?
Yeah.
It's amazing how inaccurate things are at this level of
I know.
commercial construction.
In towns, it's always like that. When I was
Who's,
helping my dad
that's the
out,
whole thing, is who's keeping track of where, if it's a town building, who's
Right.
keeping track of where all the stuff is and where it's being stored? And
And-
I mean, come to the basement sometime. We'll show you around the basement, the dungeon, where there's like millions of
Rolls.
file cabinets and rolls of plans, and I remember one of your predecessors started like going through and organizing it and, she didn't have time, you know, it's like,
No, it's an undertaking.
No, you need somebody
Hire a
full-time
high
for
school
probably a
kid or
couple,
something.
literally a couple years.
get a grant or
To
something.
scan everything, get it in and get it digitized.
Yeah,
That's why when you brought up the thing about
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
you know, looking at the building, I was like, you know,
It
let's see what
could
the,
be, yeah.
let's see what the prints we have and if they can do something.
I mean, they
you know.
digitized so much stuff in the building department that they have a whole new office space in a way. All the file cabinets are gone because everything's been scanned. Of course, everything's down in the basement, but because
Yeah.
they keep the paper. But yeah, so I'll have to do some checking in with people and see what we can find out about this building. And then, hopefully we'll get more info next time on the other two. David Olson, we were just admiring the view behind your head out the window.
Oh, you can actually see, I don't see it on my screen, but you can see it on yours?
Well, when,
Now we can't.
when
'cause-
you got out of the way, we could
That's
see. and I
looking
said,
south over Penobscot Bay.
The Penobscot Bay, yeah. You're on Vinyl Haven, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I can turn the camera. You want to see the eastern view?
Sure.
Sure.
Show us a couple. Oh, whoa, nice.
Wow,
How's that?
Nice spot.
that is beautiful.
We're on our way.
I'm gonna say,
Make
I'll
sure
bring
we,
the butter, you bring the lobster.
there you go.
You should have seen yesterday in the rain and the wind and the
Oh,
fog.
Sure, I'm sure.
Visibility was about 100 feet.
Not so good. All right, now we've enjoyed some of Maine too. I think we're kind of good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we done for tonight?
Yes, we are, sir.
Did you have more questions or?
No, I
Okay,
think,
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
yeah. I'm just trying to understand the whole
I-
commission and
It's
what you
not
do and what
always-
you do after we leave here and all that.
What I do after I leave here, I go out and I scream.
Yeah.
She drinks.
We'll figure it out because it changes, always changes. I'm like, okay, we got this one. It's like, nope, gotta look over here. Oh, okay.
Just in case Dave nominates me. Sure, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
It's not that hard. Just gotta keep on top of everything, so answer everybody's questions.
That's
whatever.
a nice area he's in.
So you said motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
All right.
Done.
Have a great time, David.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, David.
Appreciate it.
So.
Good night, everybody.
All right, take care, buddy. Good night.
Um,